see the world through other people's eyes. Now, empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.
Very much for the job that he is doing, the mission that he is on, and the work that he does with his team. I wish that, well, I just wish that he, and I hope that his mission works. It's a very difficult mission he's on, to teach, to talk about, to analyze empathy and compassion, not only in the United States, but in the world, and why we have such a lack of it, or where is it, what is it, and how do we get it back in our society today. Edwin is on a mission to find out just what is in the minds of Americans and institutions and organizations and religious organizations, corporations, especially, I think, our education system with our young folks. Edwin has been very concerned about the young people that are coming up in this world today, and what kind of mentality they have, what kind of training, what kind of teaching, what are they learning, and who are they learning it from, and how is this, if you could say, this pattern of not having empathy and compassion being transferred to our kids. Edwin, hello, how are you doing?
Oh, hi, Kiler.
I'm here.
Yeah, I'm here
so
too.
Glad.
Great to be here
so
with
glad.
you.
Oh God, it's wonderful. I'm so happy that you and I finally actually got together on a real talk show of mine. It seemed like we were never gonna, you were sick there for a while and I was sick, and here we are.
Yeah, I had a
Tell
little bit of
everybody.
bronchitis, so if I start coughing, you'll know why.
Oh, that's okay, Edwin. That's okay. Just tell the audience a little bit about how you got started with this mission on empathy and compassion, because you've told me the story and I love it. It's wonderful. It's real, and you're real, and that's what I love about you. You're real. You're a real person, and tell everybody how you got started on this, Edwin.
Well, it depends on how far back you want to go, Kyler. If I go way back, I grew up in a kind of a conservative family in Sacramento. It was an evangelical family. And, I thought I kind of had the answers to all the world's problems and knew how things worked. But then instead of going to college, I took off and spent 10 years traveling around the world. And I was really kind of like a seeker, I'd say, just kind of searching kind of for the meaning of life, what life is all about.
Yes.
And as I kind of went to all these different cultures, Indonesia, India, China, Russia, you name it, I really started seeing the common humanity of everyone. It's like really, there's just warm, generous, kind people, all over the world. And I really came to see that's kind of part of our basic nature. And I've been kind of doing projects around looking at values. I became very interested in kind of looking thematically at values. And so my search kind of led me to the centrality of the value of empathy, just seeing that it's core to who we are as human beings, and that we just need more of it in society. And so that's what I've been working on. You kind of described the project that I'm working on. But I think it's a little bit broader than kind of the description you were giving, in that I really see the point that we need a culture of empathy. We need to transform our whole culture to have empathy as a central organizing value.
You know what? I agree with you 100% on that. That really struck a chord in me, what you just said. A culture of empathy and compassion comes from experience, though, and perception and environment, nurture, nature. We are a product of our intellect. We are a product of our environment and our experience. And this is something you and I kind of go head to head on sometimes. And I like that. We debate on this. I believe that the human brain is like a sponge, and it's kind of like, we're kind of like robots destined to do what our brain tells us to do. We're bodies carried around by a brain. That's basically what we are. We're a body that's just carried around by a brain. And if you'll notice, I was thinking about this last night before we came on the air. I was thinking, have you ever found yourself saying, well, I don't believe that, or, well, tomorrow I'm going to go see so-and-so and they're going to do such and such. You're talking about their and me and I. Well, who is this I? What is this I made up of? What does it consist of? There is no one I or one we or one they. We're made up of such complex chemicals in the brain, and our brains are so massively complex, it's almost like we don't have any control over what our brain does. Our brain is just acting on its own. And I think sometimes we actually believe that we are separate from the brain, and somehow we're dragging the brain around, telling the brain what to do. Are you
Yeah,
getting me on
you're
this?
saying you're thinking that you're feeling that we're all kind of interconnected, that there's like an interconnectedness between people.
Yeah,
That
yeah, very,
instead
very,
of individual, totally cut off individual beings, we're actually connected with each other.
very intricately so. And that is something that we deny. And that's something that we don't like to think about or can't think about or haven't been educated to think about or just don't believe. We've become such an I, me society that we do not see our brothers and sisters as being a major part, not just a major part of us, but us. When I look at you, you are actually me and I am actually you, but we don't like to admit that. Have you noticed
Yeah,
that
there's
in
actually two
people?
ways of talking about that. One is just from an experiential way, is that we
Mm-hmm.
just experience that connection with others from an experiential or body felt sensation. And the
Mm-hmm.
other way is to come at it is from the scientific point of view with the newly discovery of mirror neurons.
Mm-hmm.
Mirror neurons say that uh, it they were only discovered like 15 years ago, and they show that when we do an action and see an action, the same neurons fire within our bodies. So
Yes.
as I'm listening to your voice now, and I'm hearing the intonation and the tone and the energy and the what's behind that I'm feeling that energy that you are giving off, and my body is actually mirroring it inside of me. So in that sense, you are part of me. You are inside of me, uh,
Mm-hmm.
and we are
Mm-hmm.
connected in that way. So something that this is really exciting new research studies discoveries about mirror neurons, how they show the mechanism by which we are connected with each other.
And this also has to do with hypnosis, and it also has to do with like when these TV preachers wave their hand, like Benny Hinn will wave his hand, and 1,500 people will fall down from the front row to the back row. And, leaders have this charismatic hypnotic trance over people. Entertainers have this hypnotic trance over people and cause them to do things they would never do and think things they would never think. It's the same kind of mentality, but I think it's being used in a diabolical, wrong way a lot of times.
Yeah, so empathy can be used in a negative way. You're thinking.
Yeah, it can be conned. You can con people. You can be tyrannical with that. You can be a tyrannical leader.
Yeah.
You can be a diabolical leader, and you can use your charisma and your empathy and your pseudo compassion to draw people into your web so you can take advantage of them. And I think that is something that needs to be discussed a lot
Yeah,
in
so
your
it kind of
circles.
comes up, then we're kind of touching on what is the definition of empathy.
Yes,
How do you define empathy? And you're kind of like saying these people are manipulating you, and the manipulation is empathy. Well, the manipulation is manipulation. You know what I'm
hmm
saying? It's like
in the name of empathy. In
they,
the name of empathy.
well, yeah, they maybe could put a word on it like empathy, but um, I've talked to some, you know, scientists about this very question, and
Yes,
well, maybe we should talk about the definition of empathy first, just to give
yes,
kind of like a
yes.
context and a framework. So for me, there's actually four parts to empathy. The first part I would call self-empathy, and that's like being aware of your own internal state. It's kind of like mindfulness, sensory awareness, feeling the sensations that are going on inside your body, and sort of like
Which
a
very,
self-knowledge. So that's like
which very few
self-empathy.
people do, by the way.
Yeah, you have to
Which
kind of
very
take time where if we're all stressed and closed off, we're not like calming down, taking a walk in the woods, just feeling, getting connected back to what's going on inside of ourselves.
Right.
And so that's self-empathy. And then as we have that calmness and that awareness of ourselves, as our fear goes down, our stress goes down, our awareness opens up. So we can take in what I would call mirrored empathy. And that's through mirror neurons, that as we see someone, we can feel who they are through mirror neurons, because we are mirroring who they are in our own selves. And so we have that mirroring that goes on, mirror neurons and mirrored empathy.
Right.
And the calmer we are, the more spacious we are, the more open we are to mirroring and having that process happen. Then the third part of empathy is, I call it imaginative empathy, or sometimes it's called cognitive empathy or perspective taking, is that we take the perspective kind of like an actor does, right? An actor can say, well, this person's having this conflict. I'm going to put myself in their position and act how they would act in that situation. So you're taking the actual, more of a mental picture of where that other person is coming from. And then the fourth part of empathy, I would say, is empathic action. That as we connect with each other, we can take action together to do things. And I've seen this especially play out in in mediation, restorative circle process, where people are in conflict, they're really mad at each other, they're not empathizing with each other. And then, you start modeling empathy, you get them to start empathizing with each other. And then they do an action. They say, okay, together, we're going to work together to kind of solve this problem and do something together. And they work in kind of this, as in this smooth harmony. So empathic action is when the blocks to empathy are removed. So those are the four parts of empathy. And now you were talking about how people are out there manipulating you, right?
Well, not just me, but everyone.
Or anyone.
Yes,
Yeah.
I could go on and on about that, because that's part of my expertise. Is I'm a master of neuro-linguistic programming, and I consider myself fairly well versed in advanced human communication and the processes that go on within the brain to receive information, process information, store information, filter information, and transmit information back out of the brain after it's been confirmed into a constructed realities form. So yeah, it's all of the things that you're speaking of seem very complex, but they happen within split seconds within the brain. But people don't always realize what you just said and how complex all of this is. That's another problem, is how do we get people to realize what you just said, which took about 2.5 minutes? How do we get them to utilize that function and realize that capability? Is that what you're doing? Is that what you're trying to do?
Yeah, we need ways to teach empathy. And I might want to go back, though, to what you were talking about to begin with, about how empathy could be used for manipulation, because I was kind of left hanging. And actually, people who are psychopaths have that perspective taking. They can see the world from another person's point of view, and actually can use that knowledge to kind of manipulate you. But what they're missing is the mirrored empathy, is that they're not really deeply feeling who you are and kind of becoming one with you. In that sense. So they are creating pain in you, and they're not maybe seeing the pain. They're not feeling the pain. So it's not a full quality of empathy in that. So
now, current science also says that these psychopaths and sociopaths cannot be cured, will not be cured, and that most of them do this because they want to, and they're very conscious of it and very happy with it and very comfortable in it.
Yeah, so it's like, how do psychopaths kind of get to the point where they're psychopaths? And again, it could be there's science, there's biological as well as nurture components that I've heard of. So,
there are
abused
children.
Yeah, there's abused children who they've been in a lot of pain, and then at some point trauma, suffering, pain, neglect, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just kind of cut off their
Mm-hmm.
emotions, and then they
Mm-hmm.
just don't feel others' emotions. So
Right.
you're saying like, well, how do we teach empathy and so forth? So it's like making sure that every child has all the empathy that they need to develop and grow.
Mm-hmm.
And that's one initiative out there from Ashoka.org. They're trying to create empathy in all the schools, create a nationwide project to bring empathy training into all the schools and to make it like a core part of the curriculum.
Now, look, you're bringing up some very touchy subjects here now. What about my studies? Our studies are different. Your gifts are different than my gifts, but I think we put our heads together and we come up with something great. What about our education system turning completely humanistic and agnostic and pantheistic? What about our new school books that are coming out that are teaching evolution and not Christianity or creation or any kind of God? What about the movement going on in the UK to completely abolish God right now as we speak on the air today? What about the movement to completely abolish God from the education system in the United States of America, which is happening right now, which I have the research.
Yeah, so it's like there's people who have beliefs and feelings, and they feel that those aren't being heard. And
Well, no, Edwin, you're missing the point. There's a conscious move on by the atheist and by the Jesuits and by the Vatican. Even so, you could believe that the Vatican and other factions within the United States, liberal factions as well as conservative factions, to completely abolish religion in all forms except religions to the state or to the global council or the global environment. So, what do you do working against those kinds of things? People are going to be asking, children are going to be asking, well, where does empathy come from? We used to hear about the Golden Rule. We used to hear about the Bible in Sunday school. Is that real? Is God real? Did He create empathy in us to make us love one another? And you say, well, I'm sorry, I can't speak about that because the global Illuminati is listening and they'll put us in jail. They'll handcuff us if we talk about this to our children. It will be considered child abuse.
yeah, so if people say that God said talked or Jesus or any religion talked about the golden
Yes.
rule that you can't talk about that.
No.
And
That move is on right now, Edwin.
uh
It's on strong right now. What are you going to do to fight that? Are you going to say empathy comes out of a soup can? Or it just something that happened in a robotic brain that's programmed to just move forward in a linear fashion? Are you
yes.
going to tell children that it's just something that happens?
Yeah, it's like, so where does you're wondering like, where does the empathy come from? Like, where is the actual source of empathy, like the ultimate
Well,
source of empathy?
I'm grounded in God,
Uh-huh.
not necessarily Jesus Christ as Lord and Savior, and He's the only one and the only path, but I'm grounded in spirituality, and I'm grounded in the I am, the Alpha, the Omega, Elohim, Yeshua. I'm grounded in some kind of God up there that put all of this together and created us and had a very specific reason for doing it, whether it was through singularity, the Big Bang, or whatever. He's still behind that first cause. And to take God out of the equation is to turn everyone into animals, heathens, humanistic, twisted, perverted creatures who could possibly all become psychopaths at some point.
Well, we do. Yeah, I would say that we do have that capacity for,
Now,
for
come on,
as we
Edwin, give me
become
your
as we
answer on that.
become fearful, we do have that capacity. But you're I'm just trying to hear what it is that you're concerned, because it sounds like you're really concerned about certain
I am.
certain views not being heard. And I think
Yes.
and there's like a pain involved in that. If your view is not heard, it's like painful. Hey, I'm not being heard. And I think that's exactly what empathy is about, that everyone's view, everyone's feeling is important, and that we hear and have a space for all those views to be heard.
Hmm.
You know, my,
The problem in America right now is everyone is so individualistic and me, I, and getting what they can get before someone else takes it in this terrible economy also, that we're becoming a very selfish and greedy, heartless, cold nation, Edwin.
Yeah. And you're,
you know.
it sounds like you're wanting, like, let's get together and not have that. Let's everybody listen to everyone else and have a
Yes.
space where we can listen to, what's important to you so that you're not left out, that you feel heard. But then it's
Yeah.
also, that's what I like, I call it the culture of empathy, because we need to have that as the value of everyone. It's on all sides of these debates that we have, be it the abortion debate, the religion in schools or in the politics debates, all these different, contentious debates within the country, is instead of like arguing and fighting about it, is to really say, empathy is the starting point. Like, we want to hear everybody's point of view and everyone's feelings, what is important to you, and keep working on it until we come to some kind of see our common humanity and kind of
Haven't
build
you
on top of
haven't
that.
you haven't you met pastors yet that just tear your head off basically and say, Edwin, 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 read your Bible, look at Proverbs. I mean, come on. This is not rocket scientist, Edwin. Let's just read the Proverbs. I mean, if any dumb cluck would read Proverbs, they would have the whole book of life right there in front of them, from prophets past Jesus even. Proverbs didn't just come from Jesus's flock. Proverbs came out of something 6, 7, 8,000 years old. I mean, there's a basic blueprint for life here. And God gave it to us with all the religions. Like you said, every religion has compassion in it. Even the Torah, the Quran, all of these, the Holy Bible, they all come from the same basic premise. Yeah, there's a lot of factions out there that are splintered and radical and crazy and twisted, hateful, but the basic premise is love and compassion and helping your neighbor, do unto others as you would have them do unto you. It's pretty simple. I mean, why do we have to study this thing to no end and turn it into an academic pursuit when it's such a basic premise?
Yeah, it's well, I kind of see it from 2 points of view.
Me too. I'm
Is
just pushing
Yeah,
you.
is the experiential. It's like, for hundreds of years, scientists and academics have kind of said, "Hey, every people are just greedy, selfish, self-centered beings trying to reproduce." So science
Mm-hmm.
has been saying that. They've basically been promoting that viewpoint,
Mm-hmm.
that and saying this is how it is. But now there's new science coming out that's kind of like, with around these mirror neurons, especially, showing actually we are interconnected, and there's a biological understanding for how that interconnection works. So I don't think we want to throw out the science. And I
No,
think,
no, no.
and I
Quantum
think,
quantum physics are coming together with pastors. Quantum physics, for the first time in history, are coming together. Scientists are coming together with those in the spiritual community saying, hey, you guys have got something. And not only have you got something, you've had something for a long time that we haven't been looking at. So you're right,
yeah, I
Edwin.
see it the handshake between the two. With empathy is almost like the handshake between all these different disciplines and worldviews. As you were
Yes.
saying, that doing to others as you would have them do unto you is really based on empathy. It's about
Yes, it is.
empathizing with the other, because how do you
Yes.
know how to interact and do unto others? Because you have to empathize, you have to put yourself in their situation. So here it is, the golden rule, the foundation of so many religions, and the scientists are saying, uh-oh, it looks like this is how it really works. This is really what kind
Mm-hmm.
of is the glue that holds us together. So I kind of see
What
this as actually like a kind of a merging of the two.
What scares me is this is going to turn into some kind of new age touchy feely thing, and it's not going to be based in any kind of really old time religion. And I say that because I've been an intellectual and I've been a pastor and I've been in the pulpit and I've taught and I've studied world religion. There is a very big benefit in having a spiritual root connected to God with a dogma behind it. There's a very big health benefit, not only physically, but psychologically and philosophically. There's a very, very much of a health benefit in that, being rooted in something, knowing kind of where you came from, even if it's an invisible entity called God or Buddha, or Vishnu or Jesus Christ or Allah. There's a very, very big benefit in that. Now, when you move to the new age crazy, I call it, this love touchy-feely thing, and aliens are coming down and they're waiting behind Saturn and Arubu and all these other nutty things, and UFOs are going to come down and teach us love. That's getting into a real silly, crazy, outlandish, nutty, dangerous territory with me.
Yeah.
Okay?
Well,
Answer that for me,
yeah,
would
I
you?
think it's the same thing with empathy is we have to listen to everyone that's what's underneath, to kind of go more deeply into what people are saying.
Yeah.
And one of the things that blocks empathy is judgment, right? So
Oh,
I don't
yes.
support the judgment. I don't support you saying those people are nutty, those people are stupid, those people are idiots, those people. It's like that whole demeaning process actually diminishes connection and empathy and growing deeper because
Well, you're talking to
everything
Kiler
everybody is
Davenport.
saying, I think there is an underlying validity to what it is that they're trying to express. And we should try to hear what is the underlying, what is the underlying feeling? What is the underlying concerns? What are the underlying fears that everyone
Well,
is feeling?
how many Pentecostal preachers do you know that have a box full of poisonous snakes at the pew? And I know a bunch of them up here that play with them during the service and let the children play with them, and they get bit. Some of them die. Some of them go to the hospital. Do you think that's nutty? And they're some of the most spiritual people on the planet. I know them personally. They're some of the most devoted, spiritually grounded people on the planet. They're not cutting out vaginas of little girls in Middle East like they are over there, but they're playing with snakes in the pew with the kids. Do you think that's nutty?
Well, then, if we're listening, we're hearing what is important to them, but we also have to hear what is important to other people because there's people who are concerned with the welfare of those children. And
Yes.
and just the thing is, you were just talking about genital mutilation. I mean, nobody's asking those little girls what they think and feel about it. So that's
No,
like
it's the
that's
it's
not that's
culture.
definitely not empathic. The empathy
It's
is
the
hearing
but
what
it's
is
the
important to
culture.
those little girls.
But Edwin, it's the culture. It's the nature. It's the culture. It's ingrained in the constructed reality of the culture and the religion. Just like you drink your coffee in the morning and have a bowel movement, it's just as ingrained as that is with you. It's just as ingrained. You look at those people and say, well, you don't mutilate this little girl's vagina. What are you doing taking her in here and doing this? Well, they're going to think you're a complete idiot. They're going to think that you're from another planet, that you're of some kind of devil worshiping cult.
Yeah,
I've already been
yeah.
there, done that. I've already been there, done that.
Uh-huh.
I've worked with these people.
Mm-hmm.
I have friends all over the Middle East that this is as real to them as what you're talking about is to you. So how do you convince two people sitting down at a table? Where do you draw the line? How do you get those people talking?
Yeah. I mean, what do you think? How do we build a culture? I kind of, it's not just me trying to build a culture of empathy. I'm looking for your ideas too, Kyler. It's like, I'm trying to elicit you and build and your audience and what can we do to build a culture of empathy? How do we
Well,
bring those different people together and say, empathy is the core value here. It's like, some, rituals and if the rituals are not fostering empathy, greater empathy, well, maybe we should change
okay.
those rituals.
Okay, I agree. I agree. I agree. But as I was telling someone on Facebook yesterday, first, before you can change a man, you have to walk in a man's shoes. Before you can change a man, you have to understand where that man came from and how many thousands of years of ingrained information is in his head or her head. You can't just walk into a situation in a room in some classroom and say, now let's talk about empathy and let's just talk about this. It's not a shallow subject. It's such a deep, deep, deep and complex subject. And I agree with you. It's not something we're going to change overnight. You said the other day on the radio with me, on the phone with me, and it's not something we're going to change overnight. But who should be? Tell me this: who should be responsible for this in a big way? Do you think the churches should come out now in a big way, since there's 400,000 churches in the United States? Probably more than that, but 400,000 at last count that were just counted. Don't you think that the churches should come out
Well,
and go with you on this and say, Edwin, we're here, baby. We're with you.
yeah.
We're going to go down for you.
It's not for me. I hope it's for empathy
Well, you know,
and
I'm
yeah,
using you
uh,
as the figurehead here. Like people use me as the figurehead.
yeah.
Okay. You're the man.
No, we're all. It's like we're biologically
Oh,
wired.
stop
We're
that. Stop
biologic.
that.
No, no. You're biologically wired for empathy. We're as human beings. That's been the
Yeah,
success,
but
the
you've put
huge
yourself on the
success.
chopping block. You've put yourself out there. You're the man. People respect you. They look up to you. They look towards you. So don't ever get into this drippy down. I'm not a leader. We're all leaders. You're a leader.
Yeah. Well,
Accept
I'm
it.
saying that that we all have this capacity for empathy, and we all need that empathy. It's kind of, you were talking before about why we need the empathy, and about religion and God kind of giving you a sense of calmness and
Yes.
connectedness.
Well, there again, it's not just me.
Right.
Yeah,
And
I'm
that's
going
the
to pull
same
you
thing
now.
that
It's not just
empathy
me now.
does. As we connect, that whole notion
Yeah.
of connecting with others, biologically it releases, if we're stressed, our body is full of cortisol, the stress hormone, we're all pissed off and angry, and the cortisol is going through our body, and we've got that agitation, and we want to beat somebody. And when we start talking with someone and we start getting relaxed, we start empathizing with each other, our bodies release oxytocin, which is like a,
Yes, it
a
does.
neuropeptide that relaxes the body, that calms you down, and it's good for
Very
you.
beautiful.
It's
Yes.
it's like it's relaxing you. It's making you live longer. People who are have less stress, less inflammation, and all that kind of stuff,
Hmm.
they live
Hmm.
longer. So the empathy, the connecting with others, and in a positive way, it relaxes us, and it makes us live longer, makes us live more fulfilled lives. So it's not like, I'm out there saying, well, you should do this. It's just like saying, well, here's how these things work. And
Hmm.
you want to promote it in your own life for your own well-being, not because I
Hmm.
say you should or tell you to or something.
No, no, you have to take more responsibility than that, Edwin. That made me sick when you said that. It made me feel like, well, you're just one of the guys like at the Occupy movement when I went out to interview them on the street all these many months, and you walk up to one of the occupiers and say, who's in charge here? And they go, we're all in charge here. I said, well, who's the leader here? There's no leader here. Well, who gets the damn donuts? We all get the donuts. It's stupid. I mean, you're our leader,
Yeah,
okay?
I'll say that. I've been
Uh,
out there. I've been pushing, for empathy.
yeah,
So I don't, I take the responsibility for that. I've dedicated my
yes,
life to it. I'm working,
yes.
12, 16 hours a day trying to create this
Me too.
dialogue, and
Me too.
yeah.
It's amazing that you and I are on the same road. We're just approaching it in such different ways. I mean, I'm the prophet of doom. I'm the investigator for the Illuminati and the New World
Yeah.
Order. And I attack all of these conspiracy theorists and I ask them to bring me bring me facts, bring me some facts. And, our government's been taken over by psychopaths. I mean, I've got 3 videos I'll send you that were just put out. Very, very good videos by some very prominent people that say that our leaders, you cannot be a leader in the United States Congress or Senate unless you're a psychopath. You cannot be a member of the Illuminati or the World Council or the Council on Foreign Governments unless you're a psychopath. So what do you do in a situation like that? Whenever this is so prominent and this is so real and this is so factual that our government is killing all of these innocents around the world as we speak today. We're killing so many innocents in the name of democracy, ha ha ha, in the name of God, ha ha ha, in the name of power and money is what it's all about, and oil and control. So what do you do when you've got a government that's hell bent on killing all of these innocents around the world and occupying the Middle East and taking over the frickin' world? How do you deal with something like that, or do you just want to stay out of the politic? Do you want
I'm
to
all
stay
for
away from the
politics.
politic?
I create on my website. There's the empathy party movement that I created. And it's like, let's
I bet.
organize around empathy, create a movement. I've been to the Democratic Party, and their conventions. I've been to the Republican Party convention here in California. I've been to the Tea Party rallies and interviewed people there about empathy. I've been to the Democratic, the Occupy, and all over. I talked to all sides about this. And I'm seeing that we need to kind of organize from the ground up and say, empathy is this core value. Let's organize, a society based on empathy. and and on promoting it.
I think we
So
need to put our. I think we need to put empathy back in the churches because I'm very much involved with the churches up here, and they have all turned the homeless away. They've all built one single group up here in the Northwest where they've just taken the homeless and said, goodbye, you can't come to church here, but you can go down the street to something called Love Inc. We've got this Love Inc. Incorporated that we've created up here. You can't bring your dirty clothes to the church. You can't push your basket and leave it in front of the church. You can't come in dirty or drunk or high. You can't come crawling in crying like you're depressed. We want you to come in with a new shiny Bible. We want you to drive up in a nice shiny car. And we want you to act like we act, think like we act, do what we do, and do what we tell you to do. And that's not just one or two churches. I'm talking thousands of churches are doing this. Now, what is going on with this? Why are we doing this in the damn churches? What's going on with these damn people?
yeah,
Is that empathy? Is that empathy?
what we need is a dialogue around that. We need to bring those different parties together and hear all the points of view.
Well, I can
Because
sure bring them to you.
well, let's do it. We'll create a circle. We can do it on Skype, a
Yeah.
circle, and then have bring these people together and find out what's going on. Because everybody has something that's going on. There's the people, the churches. I mean, they're probably, or any kind of organizations like that are trying to, do contribute to social work. They have their
Yeah.
limits. I mean, people get burned out. I was at
Well, let me tell you,
I was at the
the hard.
Occupy movement here, and we set up a tent called the Empathy Tent, and we were doing empathic listening, conflict resolution, and there'd be young people who they'd come and they were kind of like under a lot of stress, and they would just want somebody to listen to them, and you'd
Yes.
hear them for half an hour or an hour, and they'd say, I grew up in a family where just we didn't have any connection with my family. People didn't really listen to me. I just never felt connected. I'm traveling
Yes.
now. I'm kind of alone. I don't feel any sense of connection. I'm looking for a place. So
I
they have all this stress and concern, but everybody else is kind of stressed and concerned too. So it's like this whole domino effect of a whole
Here's the hard
culture
part.
that is stressed and
The pastors tell me, Edwin, the pastors tell me when I go into their office and bang my hand down on the table and say, what the hell is going on here? You guys are kicking all your people that need something out of the church. Now, what is that? I don't understand that. What's going on? And they say, well, we're just not, Pastor Kiler, we're just not equipped to handle this type of situation. We're not equipped for these smelly people. We're just not, we're a church. And I'm going, what? And we're a church. He needs to say we're a business. We're a business, and we don't want to run good customers off. Is what he really wants to say. We don't want to run good customers off with stinky customers. Church has turned into a business, and so that just is profound to me that a pastor would actually come out and say, sitting there with his $900 suit on, with his home bought and paid for by the trustees there at the church, that we don't want anybody in church that's not exactly like us. And that scares the hell out of me, Edwin. I
that
mean,
people are
you
kind of
know,
cutting other people off and not kind of
the
seeing
people
them.
that really
Uh-huh.
need help,
Yeah.
Edwin, you wouldn't do that if you had a church. I know you. I know you. You would not do that. You would bring people in if they were crawling in, pissing on themselves. You would have some deacons go get them and take them to the back room and clean them up. You wouldn't throw them in jail, call the police.
Well, we all have our limits as well. Like when I was at the Occupy camp, we know there's a lot of need there, and it was like beyond my capacity to, kind of assist in all that. But I see it a little bit different that it's also, I mean, it's a whole societal, promoting empathy at a whole societal level as well as the individual level.
Yeah, yeah.
Is that it's like, I couldn't, assist anyone, but it's not just about me assisting. It's about creating a culture where empathy is valued within that culture, because there was all kinds of conflict. People didn't have the tools for even, resolving those conflicts. There was fights, knife fights, you name it. It was kind of going on there. So it's like, how do we,
I don't.
how do we
Uh,
build that culture of empathy? We have to kind of start with where we are.
well, let me mention
We're
this.
here, and it's also the people who are in need. They might be really having a lot of stress, But it's not just about helping people. It's about saying we need to create this environment of empathy, and you need to be an empathy ambassador as well. It's like it's not just about, you know what I mean? It's like helping.
Yeah.
It
No, I am. I'm
it's
going to
about
prove it to
that.
you.
It's about you can. I kind of see it if you're handing out money to a panhandler or something. It's like it's up to you to be working for empathy as well. It's not just about your
Edwin,
own need. Even though
oh,
those people are in such deep need that they just,
yes.
they're in stress. They need like almost like emergency empathy.
And
So
I admit that they put themselves in this position, and you don't know me evidently as well as I thought you did. That's what we do. We rescue senior citizens up here that are dying, that are being abused and beat up and robbed. We deal with felons up here. Hardcore felons come to me that would kill anyone else. They come to me. I turn them in to the police. They go with me only. I deal with some hardcore felons up here, and they love me. We hold each other and we hug each other, and they come to me and sing to me. They love karaoke, some of these guys, and they sing to me out in the back. You would think we were gay if you looked at us, and I don't give a damn. I love them. I love all of them. I've treated their wounds before I took them to jail. I've treated their wounds. I've treated their pneumonia. I've done things that are illegal. I've harbored felons up here. And to hell with the police. If they don't like it, they can lump it, because they're going to get them in there and beat them up and treat them like hell and lock them up. I have a lot of empathy, Edwin. And I'm the core of empathy, man. If you want to talk to somebody that's the core of empathy, you talk to me and Heather. We are the damned core. On the street, in your face, empathy, man. We will not turn anybody away. We're used to dealing with people in a needle in both arms and spooning it up, baby, with a lighter. And crying on the curb and saying, God save me, God save me. What the hell am I going to do? I've prostituted myself out for the last week. I've drugged myself to death. I've stolen this week. And you guys are talking to me? What the hell is wrong with you? Why are you talking to me even?
yeah.
And I put my arms around them and I love them. And I've loved people back to normality, if that's what you want to call it. I've loved people back to some sense of normalcy. And now I've got them going out and doing it to other people. But you know what? True empathy, Edwin, and true love is going into dark, dangerous places that are twisted and perverted and nasty and stinky and rotten. That's what true empathy is. Any dumb cluck can go around and spout empathy and spout compassion and spout love and not know a damn thing about it. I mean, you're talking to a guy here that's in the ditch every day, man. We're out there in the trenches every day, Edwin.
Yeah.
We go places where nobody wants to go. And we deal with people that nobody wants to deal with. Now, to me, that is empathy.
Yeah, that's great. That's you're really going into like the most difficult situations, the most stressful situations, and being present with people that
And not
really
everybody
needs
can
it.
do
They
that,
really need it.
like you
No, yeah,
said.
it's hard.
And that's one of the problems. People are so wrapped up in their own lives, Edwin. People are so worried about their own economic situation and their own food. Where am I going to pay my doctor bill? How am I going to pay my gas, my electric, my insurance? How am I going to eat next week? To be empathetic.
Yeah.
I know you've thought about
Oh
that
yeah,
too, that people in
it's really
America,
all the things that you're talking about are things that instill fear. It's like
yes.
people are afraid. It's like, hey, I'm afraid if I don't take care of myself, who will? And then I
Yeah. And
have to
it's
close
also like,
myself off. I can't.
how can I be, yeah, you're right. You're right. Close myself off. How can I be empathetic? They say, how can I go out and give an extra dollar when I don't even have it? You know?
And then if I start giving to everyone else, I'll be totally depleted and drained and
Yes.
tossed on the garbage heap.
And they're afraid if they even talk to someone nowadays, like a neighbor or something, that the neighbor might have a need and they might have to turn them down. And they don't want to turn them down, so they just don't talk to the neighbor. I've had friends over here tell me that. I've had neighbors actually tell me that. Matter of fact, I had a man yesterday, 65, tell me that. He said, I don't know any of my neighbors here, and I've lived here 40 years. And I said, well, why? Don't you know your neighbors, Frank? And he said, well, my wife and I live on a fixed income, and these younger people are moving in around here, and I'm so afraid they're going to ask me to borrow something, or they're going to ask me to come in the house, and I don't know them. I don't trust them. He said, you know, this isn't like the old days where we all knew each other. He said, these new people moving in around here, they're all aliens to me. They're all dangerous, you know? And that's a big point, Edwin.
Yeah, it's a culture of fear, right? We're living kind of in this
Yes.
culture of fear, and it's
Yes.
fear of what other people will do to us, fear of, people taking advantage of us, fear, fear, fear,
Yes.
fear, fear, fear.
Don't you think we
So
set ourselves up before?
it's a bit,
Don't you?
kind of what's coming to me
Yeah.
is just this vision of a concentration camp, right?
Oh,
You
God.
create a social structure that's like a
Yes.
concentration camp, and people, it's all about fear, maintaining a hierarchy, and a
Hmm.
whole environment. So what I'm looking at is how do we change that whole environment? How do we change that social structure? There's people say, well, just sit and meditate and get connected to yourself. And it's like
Yeah,
you're going to go to the gas chambers, I mean, it might
I
relieve a
know.
little bit of stress, but it's not changing the overall structure of the concentration camp.
No.
So that can be a stepping stone, the mindfulness, the meditation, the prayer, all those things. But we have to look at how do we change the overall structure of society so that all the institutions, and you mentioned the churches and all these other institutions, so that the institutions
400,000
are
plus.
structured to promote empathy and connection.
Yeah.
So we have to change it from a culture of fear to a culture of empathy.
Yes.
And it's like, how
Yes.
do we get there? What's in, I mean, there's so many things in the way, and it's an ongoing process. It's a lifetime process maybe for humanity. I don't know, but it's,
And religion is terrible too. Man-made religion is hurting us up here because the people that come to us for help, Heather and I, we don't have anything. We live on donations, for our senior program. And we have people come to us from the local churches. And I say, well, didn't your pastor help you? Did he sit with you and talk to you this week like I asked you? And they said, oh, yeah, we went to talk to him, but he said he would pray for us. And I said, well, did he tell you anything else? Did he help you with your light bill? Well, no, the coffers are broke. And he said he would pray for us and that the Lord would will it and the Lord would do it. And then when the Lord was ready, our light bill would be paid. And I said, hogwash. Hogwash. you know, Daddy used to say, faith without works is dead. And if you're a pastor, I say if you're going to pray, don't just pray with someone, walk their path.
yeah.
Go out there with them and find out what they need, for help. But God, this is what, man, we're ambassadors. You're right, Edwin. We just need to go out there and just go. Be
Well, it
ambassadors and
sounds
just
like, yeah,
go.
it sounds like you're saying it's like, how do we get from this culture of fear to a culture of empathy? And it's like
Yes.
we all need to be working at it in our own ways,
Yes.
and we have to be doing it constantly and ongoing. It sounds like that's really what you're working on.
It
You're
is.
working on going and empathizing, being present, because just that sense of presence and being with someone who's in need. And even it's like my mother used to say, she'd always say, trying to get me to be married and say, you know, sorrows shared are sorrows halved, joys shared are joys doubled. So it's
Yes.
just not about empathizing with people who are in need. It's about being present and sharing the joy of people as well.
Let me tell you what you've done for me, okay, in public here. You have changed me drastically, and I have not met you personally. Your energy, your charisma, your mission, your compassion, your voice tone, rhythm, volume has changed me drastically in my approach to people and my approach to my post. I used to be a son of a bee. I used to be a deadly viper, man. I would attack people on my post. You know, I have a lot of people. I stand up for Muslims. I stand up for the homosexuals. I stand up for blacks. I stand up for people in general. And I will not let anyone talk negative about anyone unless they're like me and they say, oh, those are nuts or whatever. And then we discuss it and we laugh about it and then we all clarify. I do not let people diss other people. You have changed me. I am not attacking people on post anymore. I'm not jumping to conclusions. I'm not going out there and wanting to put on the gloves and go in the ring. And, there's another way to approach this, and you've created that in me. So whatever you've done to me, it's worked, and whatever you're doing needs to keep working.
Well, I've enjoyed you. You've kind of made a point of kind of reaching out to me, and I'm really grateful for that because I've really enjoyed our dialogues. So,
Yes.
I'm very grateful for that too because you've been, persistent about contacting and talking, and so I really
Well,
I
that's
find
because
that
you're on a tough
connection
mission.
really important.
That's because what you're doing is probably one of the most important things in the world that could be done today. You are probably doing one of the most important missions, one of the most important things that could be done in the world today, and that's promote empathy and compassion, get to the bottom of this thing and find out why, how, what, when, where. You are on a very dangerous mission, a very important mission. And I hope to see you succeed. And if whatever I have to do, once we get moved, we have to leave here on the 19th. And if you know any people that are empathy and compassion out there, have them donate $20 to UnitedCaregiversOfAmerica.org so we can move these sick seniors to the other side of the mountain. Um, but yeah, I love you to death, Edwin. I just love you to death. And Heather loves you. She hadn't even talked to you. I just, I'm going to do everything in my power to put your organization all over my network and all over the world. And on every show I talk about from now on, I'm going to have you in there promoting what you're doing. And I've sent you some people, by the way, just recently, last couple of days. Okay.
Well, I hope more people kind of get that same sense of enthusiasm because I think then we'd really be getting somewhere.
Well, we're going to get somewhere. We just have to keep, like you said, we have to keep on keeping on. We can't give up. We can't quit. Have you ever thought about quitting? Have you ever gotten depressed? Have you ever just said, I just don't think this is going to work. It's just too overwhelming.
Well, I have my share of anxieties, and waking up at 4 in the morning, kind of wondering about things. The same thing like you're talking about the financing. Like, how do you finance an empathy movement? It's not a clear. It's like there's trillions for the military, but how much is there for building a culture of empathy?
And
And there's not
animals,
a lot,
Edwin.
you know.
Animals, Edwin. Let me tell you something. You can put up an animal with a broken leg, and I see 10,000 hits in 2 days. We put up one of our seniors that's died in the bed and been left there for 3 days, constipated and died. Not one hit. Not one hit, Edwin. I've done this for years. I've been an advocate for 35 years. People are coming out for cats and dogs and raccoons and butterflies. We're turning into a society that just wants to turn our head when it comes to our seniors being abused and neglected around the country and the homeless. People do not want to deal with these real human subjects. It's so much easier to help animals. And that's something else that I think you should talk about in the context of your meetings is
Yeah.
why is this country turning its back on people and turning to animals? Probably because animals don't talk back. Animals are seriously sweet and innocent, and they're not a part of our screwy human culture. That may
Yeah.
be the reason.
I
Go
interviewed
ahead.
Mary Gordon, who started a program called Roots of Empathy out of Canada that's kind of spreading around North America and other places. And when I interviewed her, she talked about that exact what was happening with seniors,
Mm-hmm.
saying there's an epidemic of loneliness. People who are alone,
Epidemic.
and for her it was like she was near tears. Just talking about the pain of seeing that in society, and the culture of empathy is about having a space to have presence, that people aren't alone. I mean, the essence of empathy is to transcend that loneliness and alienation that people feel.
There's 175 million people in this country that need you and need us and need more people like us that are completely alone and disconnected from society and have no one there to hold their hand. Heather and I work with people up here that have had no contact for a year. Their families dumped them in front of a nursing home and they drug them inside and they haven't been back. And Heather and I go and visit with them and hold their hand and read them stories and sing to them. And I play the piano and the guitar. We need more people out there, Edwin, at the basic level of empathy and compassion to go give some time to the hospitals and the nursing homes and the assisted living centers and the homeless shelters. Even if they go in and spend an hour and just say hi and hug a few necks, pass out a few cigarettes or a dollar bill or a donut, whatever.
Yeah,
You
it's
know,
that same thing with the concentration camp. In the concentration camp, there's people suffering all over, but let's address the suffering, but also address the whole structure of the concentration camp, and say that we need to
gotcha.
transform. We need to work at at that level as well as the individual level, and that the people who are
Yeah.
giving empathy, they need empathy too. It's like the teachers, even the you're talking about ministers, like they're probably feeling all stressed themselves, and they need empathy. People think, hey, you're a minister, you don't need anything, and they're like on their own kind of giving,
Well,
so they
see,
need it
I'm.
too. It's like it's a whole chain reaction. We've got to get this, you know.
Do people ever come to you and ask you if you need help or prayer or a hand to hold or a hug? Do they ever really come to you and say, Edwin, I know you've been laying up nights just worrying because you're in this mission and it's hurting, you know? Nobody ever does that to me. I'm 6'4".
Uh-huh.
I wear a stethoscope. I have my media badge on. People think we're rocks, Heather and I. We lay in here in the RV and cried last night.
Uh-huh.
We almost broke down and just to nervous breakdown. People don't ever think that we need help because we're the ones on the front line.
Yeah.
Do people ever think you need help? Your friends?
Not as much as I would hope. Would
Oh, yeah.
it's like, you know, I mean, there's this thing you think, well, that person is needy, but if we just get our empathy batteries filled, we need to get our empathy batteries filled so we can, give that charge to others. I
Yeah,
have a lot of energy, a lot of drive, and giving empathy, being there for people actually does gives me a lot, and it gives me a real sense of purpose and a real
me
sense
too.
of meaning. And like you're saying, I think empathy is like the most important thing that humanity can do right now, is create a culture of empathy. So I get a huge amount of satisfaction, knowing that I'm working on this and contributing to this, with my life. So but there is, it's, there are the financial concerns, like, how are you going to finance this and all that kind of stuff. So
Do you think the overall structure of the world is trying to weed this out of us? I had a video I looked at yesterday and did some research yesterday, and it says the normal evolution of man and the normal evolution of the United States of America and the normal evolution of the Illuminati and the top 1%, they're trying their best to get rid of empathy and compassion because it doesn't serve their purposes and it doesn't suit them as we take over these countries in the Middle East in the name of terrorism and so forth. It doesn't suit the elite to have us down here as little empathetic and compassionate, loving, discerning, intuitive people. It's better to train us to be hard and cold and do what the state says and do what the feds say and just follow along like puppets to a tyrannical government.
yeah.
Do
Well,
you believe that?
there's the wealthy people that I've known. They're pretty messed up and need empathy, just like everyone else.
Yeah, mine too.
They think they have all this money. We're told, the system tells us, get all this money, and this money is going to buy you happiness, but it doesn't. So they work. In fact, I sometimes I think like the really wealthy have even a harder time, because if you're like struggling, you're thinking, if I just make more money, then I'll be happy. So you have this hope. But then when
Right.
you have money and you realize that
Oh, I know.
it doesn't solve the problems you're trying to do, and then there's no hope.
No,
So
none
they
at
are in
all.
a
I have
state
friends that
of
are
hopelessness,
millionaires.
and I mean, it's
Right.
excruciatingly painful,
Friends.
because you don't have money, because you already know that money doesn't,
We have acquaintances that are millionaires and they would not donate a penny to us and they take coupons to Arby's and they take coupons to the local McDonald's to get a Happy Meal and they look for the sales at Sizzler and they're millionaires, Edwin.
and they need empathy just like everyone else. So it's like it's like if we start judging, if we're judging the millionaires
I'm
and the
not, it's
billionaires,
comical. I'm not
we're going to
judging them for
create a
that, but it is
culture.
comical.
We're going to create a culture of judgment. It's like the means are the end.
I know, I
If
know,
we're
I
out there
know.
saying, the Illuminati, all these people are terrible people, we're going to create a culture of judgment. What we
I
need to
got it.
do is create a culture of empathy where we empathize with everyone and say it's time to join the empathy movement.
Go,
It's time for you
Edwin.
to be join the human race, to join
Edwin,
humanity, at our heart
go talk
level.
to the Tea Party. Go talk to the Republicans. Go talk to the
I do.
Democrats and
I
say,
have.
let's no listen, but go tell the Democrats, y'all look, we've got to just be empathetic to these Republicans and the GOP. We've just got to be empathetic and compassionate. We've got to love them. You know what they're going to say? They're going to say, F you, Edwin.
Yeah, I got to tell you, when I watch
Eh,
TV here and I watch MSNBC and Fox, I like to switch between the two. And my
Oh,
partner Joan, she's like, "Those Republicans, they're idiots."
yeah.
And I'm
And
saying,
they're
"No, you
also,
can't judge." It's like,
and Edwin, it's also constructed. Let me say something, and don't take this offensively, but you seem somewhat naive, even though you're well traveled.
uh,
You seem somewhat naive to the things that are going on in the shadow government and the plan to overthrow the United States and control the minds of the people, and this diabolical, well constructed, long term plan to overthrow the American people, eliminate a couple of billion people off the planet with vaccines and Monsanto and the Vatican. And you and I have had this, and you
yeah.
always detour. You always go away
No,
from
I
the
don't go.
subject.
You have a sense of fear that there's people out there trying to manipulate.
It's
There's a
not a
sense of
sense.
fear.
It's real,
You're
Edwin.
saying,
It's
okay,
real.
you feel that it's like a truth. It's a truth. There's people
It
out
is
there
a
trying to
truth.
manipulate and trying to
I
control
interview
us.
CIA. I grew up with CIA, FBI, NSA, intelligence officers. I grew up with these spooks. I run with these spooks. I've been a spook. There is a conspiracy on to destroy the United States of America, to nuke us and get rid of about 2 billion people and start all over again because they've screwed this damn country up so bad and we're so damn broke. I just think that I know you, you're a sweet guy. You don't want to talk about it.
Yeah, you
I've
think
met
I'm kind of
people.
like naive and don't know about
Yeah, a
things,
little
and
bit. No, I
it's
don't
like,
think you're. I don't think you're naive. I think you think it'll hurt your position, and I'm sort of that way here at the station. I have to be careful what I say, even though I might think something. I have to be careful what I say because of funders, potential funders.
now
Yeah,
I want to have get everyone involved in the empathy, to get the CIA, get the NSA,
oh,
get the
Edwin, forget it,
Mossad, get the whole
Edwin.
lot of them, get them starting to think about empathy. It's like they are, it's like the military. I mean, it's all this
Yeah,
PSD, post-traumatic stress. What is
I
that?
have it
That
bad.
is
I have it bad.
from cutting off your empathy. It's cutting off your humanity because you're
Well,
out there trained to, detach yourself from others, and it's a
I had
painful
to do that.
situation. Yeah.
Well, before we go off the air, I'm going to tell you that I grew up in the dead body business. I grew up throwing little fetuses around and putting little dolls' clothes on them and putting them in caskets. I grew up doing forensic science, dead body pickup, I burned over 1,000 bodies, probably closer to 700, in the crematorium, in the retorts at 2,030 degrees. I grew up doing homicide, dead body pickup. I grew up, I worked two major plane crashes in Dallas, Texas. Never got. So yeah, I'm hard.
Yeah, you've been in
I'm
kind of the really
hard.
hardcore situations, and where just it's like super stress, yeah,
Yeah, it's amazing I'm not in lockup somewhere.
yeah. It's easy.
Well, give your website. I know you said you couldn't do but an hour. Give your website, give your information, and we're going to go back on the air, I hope, in about 3 or 4 weeks. Can
Yeah,
we do that?
great. I love talking to you, Kyler. You're just so much
I,
fun.
oh yeah, well, I'm just me, what you see is what you get, what you hear is what it is. Give your
Well,
information
it's
though, and I want to really.
cultureofempathy.com. So it's a Center for Building a Culture of Empathy, cultureofempathy.com, and that leads you to all the, all the work that I do. And this, actually, I'm recording this. So you're going to have that on your show. I've been recording the video part. So I'm going to put that online. So you'll actually
Cool.
be able to see me reacting at a physical level. So
Recording. Yeah,
you'll be able to, with
yeah,
your mirror neurons, you'll be able to feel, that extra level of what I've been doing.
next time we come on, I want to talk about the new quantum physics discovery that if I look at you, I change the neurons in your body, your brain, and the observed and the observer and the particle physics going on within us. If like Reiki, I used to not believe in it, I do now. Prayer, I used to not understand it, I do now. It's if you and I are in a room together, or we even this far apart, I think what you're saying with the mirror neurons is interesting because we do change each other in a major way.
Let's do it. I'm there.
Okay. I'll see you. I love you. I love the organization, and I'm going to become an ambassador for Edwin Rutsch and empathy and compassion. I'm going to get out there and do everything in my power to push you around the world. And I just thank you for what you're doing.
Well,
I'm not known for blowing smoke up people's butts. You know that, right?
I don't know, but I'll take your word for it. And I
Well,
enjoy the conversation, so I'm grateful just for the chance to talk with you and kind of explore this together and work
well,
together.
there's going to be a lot more going on with us. I will see you and thank you and God bless you, Edwin, and everything that you and yours are doing. Okay.
Okay. Take care, Kiler.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
See the world through other people's eyes. Empathy is a quality of character that can change the world.